Welcome to the United States like you've never seen it before. From towering skyscrapers in New York to the wild deserts of Arizona, from the beats that shaped music history to the food that everyone craves, this is America unleashed. Huge cities, epic nature, crazy culture. We're diving into it all. Buckle up, because what you're about to see will blow your mind. 16,000 years ago, North and South America were empty lands filled with mountains, forests, rivers, lakes, and animals. No humans lived there yet. Around that time, the first people likely came from Asia, crossing from Siberia to Alaska. These early travelers gradually moved south, eventually forming the Native American populations in North America. In Central and South America, people developed advanced civilizations like the Maya, Aztecs, and Incas. In the far north, the Inuit, also known as Eskimos, settled in the Arctic and Canada, living in harsh conditions. For thousands of years, these peoples lived with nature, hunting animals, fishing, and farming crops. They developed distinct cultures, languages, and traditions. However, today, only a small number of these original groups remain. European explorers arrived in the 16th century, followed by the forced migration of African slaves. Over the next centuries, waves of immigrants came from Europe, Asia, and other continents, turning the once empty land into a diverse continent with people of many languages, religions, and cultures. By the 20th century, North America had become a mix of ideas, cultures, and communities. Today, North America has three main countries: Canada, Mexico, and the United States. The U.S. has over 300 million people, divided roughly into 67% white, 13% Hispanic, 13% Black, 4% Asian, and 1% Native American. English is the main language, but Spanish and many other languages are widely spoken. Understanding how this land was settled and how the United States grew is the goal of this book. The Pilgrim Fathers. The name America comes from Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian navigator who explored South America around 1500. Yet, Europeans had reached parts of North America centuries earlier. Around AD 1000, Vikings from Scandinavia traveled to what is now Canada and New England, but they did not settle permanently. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, searching for a sea route to India, reached the Caribbean and mistakenly called the local people Indians. His voyages inspired other explorers like John Cabot and Jacques Cartier to cross the Atlantic. Europeans initially came to fish and trade. By the 17th century, the French settled in Quebec, the Dutch in New York, and the British in Virginia and New England. In 1607, English settlers founded Jamestown, Virginia. They suffered harsh winters, food shortages, and disease. Pocahontas, daughter of a Native American chief, helped settlers survive, and later traveled to England with her husband, John Rolfe. Tobacco eventually became Virginia's main crop, with African slaves brought in to work the plantations. In 1620, 101 English settlers, known as the Pilgrims, arrived at Plymouth, Massachusetts, seeking religious freedom. They farmed the land, traded with Native Americans, and believed in equality, avoiding slavery. Squanto, a Native American who spoke English, taught them how to plant corn and hunt. That autumn, the Pilgrims celebrated their first successful harvest, a tradition that evolved into modern Thanksgiving, still celebrated each year in the U.S. The War of Independence. By the 18th century, British colonies lined the east coast of North America, from New Hampshire to Georgia. The colonies were far from Britain, and many settlers became frustrated with high taxes and restrictive laws imposed by the British government. In 1773, colonists protested by dumping tea into Boston Harbor, an event known as the Boston Tea Party. Tensions led to fighting in 1775 at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. The conflict spread quickly. George Washington, a wealthy Virginian, became commander of the American Army. Despite limited resources, the colonists fought bravely. In 1776, the colonies declared independence, with Thomas Jefferson writing the Declaration of Independence. It stated that King George III had violated their rights to life, liberty, and happiness. Major battles like Bunker Hill and Yorktown defined the war. After years of fighting, the Americans won in 1781, gaining control over their land. In 1789, George Washington became the first U.S. president. The war not only created a new nation, but also inspired ideals of freedom, equality, and democracy that continue to shape the United States today. After gaining independence, the United States began to expand westward. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson purchased a large area of land from France, known as the Louisiana Territory. To explore it, he sent Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and Sacagawea, a young Native American woman, to map rivers, mountains, and plants, discovering many new species. Florida was bought from Spain in 1819, and by 1848, Texas and much of the Southwest were acquired from Mexico. Alaska was purchased from Russia in 1867. As new states joined the Union, the American flag added stars, growing from 13 to 50 by 1959 with Hawaii. Westward expansion opened opportunities for settlers, but it also led to conflicts with Native Americans, displacement of communities, and changes to the natural environment. The exploration and expansion of the United States helped shape its identity as a nation rich in resources, culture, and diversity. The Civil War. By the mid-19th century, the United States had grown to 31 million people, but tensions between the North and South were rising. The Southern states wanted to keep slavery, especially to use enslaved people on new lands in the West. The North opposed slavery. These differences led to the Civil War, which began in 1861. The war lasted 4 years and caused at least 600,000 deaths. Abraham Lincoln, elected president in 1860, worked to keep the Union together and eventually ended slavery in the Confederate States. Key battles like Gettysburg and leaders such as Generals Sherman and Grant helped the North gain victory. The war officially ended in 1865, but Lincoln was assassinated shortly afterward. Reconstruction followed, during which the country tried to rebuild and give rights to freed Black Americans. Although slavery was abolished, Black Americans still faced prejudice, violence, and limited rights, especially in the South. The Civil War shaped the nation's identity, teaching Americans about the costs of division and the value of equality and freedom. The Wild West and Native Americans. During the 19th century, many Americans moved west in search of land, farming opportunities, and adventure. The Wild West became famous in stories and movies, but the reality was often quieter. Cowboys were few, and most people were farmers, traders, and settlers, building towns and railways. Legends like Buffalo Bill Cody and Annie Oakley became part of popular culture. Native Americans suffered greatly during this period. European settlers brought diseases, killed animals like buffalo, and forced tribes onto reservations, often in poor conditions. Some Native Americans tried to preserve their culture by building businesses, including casinos, or banning alcohol. Among the tribes, the Navajo are notable. They raise sheep, make pottery, and create jewelry from silver and turquoise. Their religious practices are central to their lives, and their dances and artwork often have spiritual meaning. During World War II, Navajo soldiers served as code talkers, sending secret messages that enemies could not decode. Today, about a third of Native Americans still live on reservations, maintaining cultural traditions despite challenges. New Americans. In the early 19th century, most Americans were of British, German, or Scandinavian descent, working as farmers or in businesses. Industrialization and growing cities changed this pattern, attracting immigrants seeking work and better lives. Between 1840 and 1900, about 5 million people came from Ireland, another 5 million from Italy, and millions more from Eastern Europe, including Russia and Poland. The U.S. welcomed roughly 27 million immigrants between 1880 and 1930. Immigrants often faced poverty, limited education, and prejudice. Many arrived at Ellis Island, where they were inspected before entry. The Statue of Liberty, nearby, symbolized hope with its famous message welcoming the tired and poor. Chinese immigrants arrived in the West after gold was discovered in 1848 and worked on railroads, though they faced discrimination and legal restrictions until the 20th century. Since 1980, most immigrants come from Spanish-speaking countries like Mexico and Puerto Rico, making Spanish the second most common language in the U.S. Immigrants often settled in cities, creating neighborhoods such as Little Italy and Chinatown, where they preserved cultural traditions. Celebrations like St. Patrick's Day and Chinese New Year remain popular, showing the ongoing diversity of American society. Black Americans. Today,
About 39 million Black Americans live in the United States. Historically, most were enslaved in the South, working on cotton and tobacco plantations. Literature like Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe exposed the cruelty of slavery, while leaders like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass fought for freedom and rights. Tubman helped over 300 enslaved people escape through the Underground Railroad, and Douglass promoted literacy as a path to empowerment. After the Civil War, many Southern whites resisted Black freedom, forming groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Black men gained voting rights in 1870, but discrimination and segregation persisted. In the 20th century, many Black Americans moved to northern cities, seeking jobs and better living conditions, though prejudice continued. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, led by figures such as Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks, achieved important legal changes. King's "I Have a Dream" speech became iconic, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 guaranteed legal rights for Black Americans. Despite progress, challenges remain, as seen during events like Hurricane Katrina in 2005, when Black residents faced delayed aid. Today, Black Americans continue to contribute to the country's culture, politics, and society, building on a legacy of resilience and activism. The government of the USA. The United States government has three main branches: Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court. Each branch has its own powers to make sure no one becomes too powerful. Congress is the law-making branch. It has two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The Senate has 100 members, 2 from each state, serving 6-year terms. The House of Representatives has 435 members, with the number from each state depending on its population. Congress debates and passes laws that affect all Americans. The President, elected through votes from each state, leads the country and commands the Army. The President serves a 4-year term and can be re-elected once. Presidents can veto laws, make appointments, and live in the White House. The Supreme Court, made up of 9 judges, interprets laws and checks if they are constitutional. Every state also has its own government and laws, creating local rules for residents. Puerto Rico is an example of a place that is part of the USA, but not a state, so its residents cannot vote in federal elections. The United States mainly has 2 political parties: Republicans, who prefer lower taxes and personal responsibility, and Democrats, who support more government help for those in need. Although any citizen can theoretically become president, election campaigns are expensive, often favoring wealthy candidates. Political families such as the Adams and Bush families have held power across generations, showing that family influence can be strong in American politics. This system balances power, but also reflects the country's social and economic inequalities. Living in the USA. Life in the United States is widely known through films, television, and art, with artists like Edward Hopper and Norman Rockwell showing daily American life. Most Americans enjoy a comfortable standard of living, work about 40 hours a week, and have 2 weeks of vacation per year. Holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas are celebrated nationwide. Around 60% of families have both spouses working, while farming employs very few people. Most Americans work in hospitals, banks, shops, hotels, and offices. The unemployment rate is about 6%, and roughly 13% of Americans live in poverty, with higher rates among Black and Hispanic communities. Americans use the dollar as currency, and coins include nickels, dimes, and quarters. People often tip in restaurants, and the measurement system uses pounds and miles. Time zones differ widely across the country. Most Americans own homes and cars, driving daily to work, shops, and restaurants. Henry Ford's Model T made cars affordable, and SUVs are increasingly popular. Religion is separate from the government, though Christianity is widespread, especially in the South. Utah is home to notable Mormon communities. Television and newspapers remain central to daily life, and some Americans watch 7 hours of TV per day. Education includes elementary school, grades 1 to 5, middle school, grades 6 to 8, and high school, grades 9 to 12. About half of graduates continue to universities, including Harvard, Yale, or Berkeley. Sports are a key part of culture, with baseball, basketball, and American football being very popular. Legendary baseball players like Babe Ruth remain part of national memory and continue to inspire Americans of all ages.
Eating in the American way. American food is famous worldwide, especially fast food. Hamburgers, hot dogs, and French fries are common in nearly every country. Many Americans eat fast food often, which has contributed to high rates of overweight and obesity. Today, families often eat separately rather than together. Sweets such as cakes, cookies, and ice cream are popular snacks. The famous ice cream brand Ben & Jerry's started in Vermont. However, increasing numbers of Americans focus on healthy eating, choosing vegetables, fruits, and sometimes avoiding meat. Breakfast is a classic American experience. Eggs can be cooked in different ways. Sunny side up has the yolk on top, while over easy keeps it soft underneath. Coffee is widely available and can often be refilled for free. Starbucks, founded in the 1990s, changed coffee culture globally, offering many coffee drinks. Coca-Cola, created in 1886, is sold in almost every country. California produces high-quality wine, especially along the West Coast. Alcohol is restricted to people over 21, and smoking is banned in many public places. During Prohibition, 1920 to 1933, alcohol was illegal, but illegal production and sales flourished. American cuisine also includes international foods brought by immigrants. Tex-Mex combines Mexican flavors with more meat. Cajun dishes from Louisiana, like gumbo, are spicy. Soul food, common in African American families, includes meat, greens, cornbread, sweet potatoes, and desserts. American dining is diverse, reflecting its multicultural population while still highlighting unique traditions and tastes. American music. American music has roots in African American culture. Enslaved people sang work songs and religious songs in a call and response style. After the Civil War, they expressed personal stories through blues, especially in Mississippi. Blues songs were often sad, telling stories of hard life and danger. In the early 20th century, African Americans moved north to cities like Chicago and Detroit, bringing their music with them. Musicians such as Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf played electric guitar and shaped modern blues. In the 1950s, Elvis Presley brought blues-inspired music to white audiences. Soul music emerged in the 1960s with singers like Marvin Gaye and Otis Redding. Detroit became home to Motown, producing stars like Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, and the Jackson 5. Jazz started in New Orleans in the 1830s, influenced by African American music and dance. Jelly Roll Morton was an early jazz musician, while Louis Armstrong became famous in Chicago. Jazz spread to New York, Paris, and the world, with Miles Davis and John Coltrane becoming legends. Country music came from Scottish, Irish, and English settlers in Appalachia. Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family popularized country in the 1920s. Dolly Parton and Johnny Cash became iconic figures. In the 1990s, rap emerged in New York, telling stories of urban life. Eminem, Snoop Dogg, and Missy Elliott are well-known rappers. American music has always reflected the country's diversity, history, and creativity, influencing cultures worldwide. Some major U.S. cities. Boston, one of the oldest U.S. cities, played a key role in the fight for independence. Visitors can see the Freedom Trail, Harvard University, 1636, and MIT. The Kennedy family, including President JFK, is famous here. New York, the largest city, is known for theater, shopping, food, and the United Nations. Landmarks include the Twin Towers, Empire State Building, and Statue of Liberty. Central Park and the Metropolitan Museum of Art offer recreation and culture. Washington, D.C., the capital, is home to the Capitol, White House, and museums. Its neighborhoods, such as Georgetown, are historically notable. In the South, Savannah and Charleston have many preserved old houses, while Atlanta is a modern city with a busy airport. Chicago, Illinois, rebuilt after the 1871 fire, is known as the Windy City and has tall buildings like the Sears Tower. Frank Wright Ward designed some of its architecture, and Wrigley Field is a famous baseball stadium. Seattle, in the Northwest, became globally known for Starbucks and grunge music, with bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana. Las Vegas, in Nevada, is a desert city famous for casinos and entertainment. Each city has unique features, from historic landmarks to modern culture, reflecting the diversity and size of the United States.
California. California is the most populous U.S. state, with over 30 million people, and the third largest in area. It has diverse geography. The east has Mount Whitney, the tallest peak outside Alaska, at 4,420 meters. Death Valley, 86 meters below sea level, is extremely hot, recording 56.7 degrees Celsius in 1913. Northern California is cold and rainy, home to the tallest redwood trees, reaching 115.5 meters. Napa Valley produces famous wine. Agriculture is strong, and tech companies such as Hewlett-Packard and Apple started here. San Francisco, known for its beauty, saw the 1849 gold rush and the rise of Levi Strauss jeans. Earthquakes in 1906 and 1989 shaped the city. Landmarks include the Golden Gate Bridge and Alcatraz Island. The 1950s beatniks and 1960s hippies, especially during the Summer of Love in 1967, marked cultural history. Los Angeles is the second largest city, famous for Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and Disneyland. The film industry began in 1911 with silent movies and talkies from 1927. Famous actors include Clark Gable and Humphrey Bogart. Disneyland in Orange County features attractions like Indiana Jones Adventure and Tarzan Adventure. California combines natural wonders, history, culture, and entertainment, making it a central part of American life. Beautiful places to visit. Although most Americans live in cities, the United States has vast natural areas preserved as national parks. These areas prevent building and allow nature to thrive. Photographer Ansel Adams, born in San Francisco, captured stunning images of Yosemite and the California coast. Traveling north, Oregon and Washington offer cool, wet climates, dense forests, and high mountains. National parks like Mount Rainier and Crater Lake attract visitors. The Rocky Mountains span Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah, offering hiking, climbing, fishing, and winter sports in resorts like Aspen. Yellowstone Park, across Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana, features the famous Old Faithful Geyser. Utah's Salt Lake City is next to a highly salty lake where swimming is difficult. Arizona has hot, colorful landscapes, including the Grand Canyon, a 1,600-meter-deep river valley. New Mexico is dry and sparsely populated, but attracts artists to Santa Fe and Taos. South Dakota's Badlands and Black Hills include Mount Rushmore, carved with 4 presidents' faces. The Great Lakes
shared with Canada, form the world's largest group of freshwater lakes and include Niagara Falls. Louisiana, along the Mississippi River, inspired Mark Twain's novels. New England states are best visited in autumn when leaves turn vibrant colors. America's landscapes offer variety for adventure, history, and relaxation.
Hot and cold, big and small. Florida, in the far southeast, is the Sunshine State, with warm weather, oranges, beaches, Walt Disney World, and the Kennedy Space Center. The Everglades, a unique wetland, hosts rare plants and animals, but faces environmental threats from human development. Alaska, the largest state, is cold and remote, separated from the mainland by Canada. Historically, fishing, hunting, and gold brought wealth, and oil remains important today. Mount McKinley, North America's highest mountain, at 6,194 meters, is in Alaska. Visitors travel mostly in summer, while winters are cold and dark, but the northern lights can be seen. Texas, second in size, still has cowboys, but is wealthy due to oil. Rhode Island is the smallest state and hosts music festivals in Newport. Austin, Texas, is a musical city known for performers like Janis Joplin and Bruce Springsteen. Hawaii, far from the mainland, is famous for beaches, sunshine, trees, waterfalls, and unique wildlife. Only a small number of residents are fully Hawaiian, but many have Hawaiian ancestry. The United States offers countless experiences, from bustling cities to quiet national parks, from snowy mountains to warm seas. Whether for sports, shopping, culture, or nature, travelers can plan countless journeys across this vast and varied country.
This is an unforgettable journey through the United States. From the bustling streets of New York and Los Angeles to the serene landscapes of Yellowstone and the Grand Canyon, America is a land of contrasts, adventure, and culture. Discover the power of its government, from Congress to the Supreme Court, and how its people live, work, and celebrate traditions like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Taste the flavors that define American life, from fast food classics like burgers and fries to regional specialties like Tex-Mex, Cajun, and soul food. Experience the rhythm of American music, from the soulful blues and Motown to jazz, country, and rap, shaping culture worldwide. Explore iconic cities, historic landmarks, and breathtaking natural wonders, from the redwood forests and Napa vineyards to the deserts of Arizona and the icy peaks of Alaska. Learn how Americans play, study, and dream, whether it's baseball, basketball, or attending top universities. All of this is more than a story. It's your ticket to learning English naturally. As you follow these adventures, you'll improve your vocabulary, understand culture, and feel the language come alive. So grab your notebook, open your ears, and let the story of America guide your journey to English mastery.